Where'd you go for fun? Like, anybody?
To the Wissahickon.
What's that?
The woods.
What a great place for kids growing up. You go down there and there's no adults, and we used to build like secret forts down there. And back then they had parkies. They had police on horseback, and like we'd be swimming and we'd put a guy up on the bridge somewhere to be a lookout, and he'd say, "The parkies are coming," and everybody jump out of the water because you're not supposed to swim.
Do you know about the Indian over the Wissahickon, a good old T.D. Usgun, the chief of the Lenai Lenapes?
Yes.
You live in Germantown and you don't know?
Hyped up to see Daddy.
Oh my! Oh well, go and make his acquaintance. He's worth knowing.
Did you have like a drive-in movie theater with the big old screens?
No, not around. We never heard of that.
Not until my kids. That was years later.
No, we didn't have a car.
What was that? You
forget about
driving theaters.
They put them farther around.
And that's probably why they had so many movies in Germantown.
A lot of movies.
Oh, everybody.
And there was a movie theater up in Chestnut Hill on the west side of Germantown. I think it was called the Hill Movie Theater.
Yeah. And the Rialto up there.
On the corner of on my corner,
Mm-hmm.
the corner of Telpocken and Germantown. It's a church now.
We had
It's Donna Reed Miller's church.
It was originally called the Pelham.
All your friends from Germantown High School would go to Tumble Inn and they played music and we'd dance. And then we'd walk up Germantown Avenue and go into the Harvey House and have Coke and French fries, and you'd meet and greet and have fun.
We had a couple really huge theaters. We had the Orpheum, that was on Cheltenham Avenue, right? And the bandbox was pretty small, and then there was the Sedgwick.
It was the Rialto at Germantown Avenue and Telpocken Street, which is now a church. It was the Colonial on Cheltenham Avenue.
In the 70s, there was a thing called discotheques. Yeah. When you asked where did we party at, I think, we had the clubs that started to sort of come up, and they were called discotheques. Laughing.
I'm just picturing you with an afro. I'm sorry. Okay, my bad.
Facebook,
my
I did have a bush, all right?
My bad.
You didn't go any place for recreation. Your street was your recreation right there. We played Kick the Wiki, Lay Low Sheepy, and things like that. You wouldn't even know what they were about, would you?
I don't even know what
It just so happened
Baby in the air.
there was a lamppost. The lamplighter came every night and lit that lamppost. And that's how we could play Kick the Wiki after dark.
My father would whistle at 6 o'clock, time to come in. But at school, he wouldn't let us do homework after school. That was for you to be outside. He was a teacher too, but children should be outside after school, and any homework we couldn't finish, he would send a note to the teacher.
It was wonderful growing up in Germantown. It was beautiful. We just had such a good time. You were unafraid, you felt safe. And the buildings were just magnificent.
The parade would come through our street on its way down to Clifton Park. That was, it would go right by my house.
They still do that in Chestnut Hill on 4th of July. They decorate the bikes and so forth,
Electric Factory concerts. There was a bandbox movie theater. The World Control Studio.
They must have had 10 different dances all around Germantown. St. Francis and TI right down here, Germantown's dance. St. Vincent's had a dance. They had them all over the place. And it was wonderful, wonderful. And when you mentioned the grind, we were grinding, and the priest said, he turned on the lights and said, "You got to stop that." And then the lights went off, and we didn't stop it. He closed down the dance. They were just holding somebody close.
Germantown was a mecca for musicians back then. I don't know what it's like today. Chubby Checker, his brother Spencer lives in Germantown. And the Burke brothers on Pomona Street, Solomon Burke was one of the brothers, showstoppers. And we used to just jam at people's houses.
Lee Morgan, who went to elementary school with me. Reggie Workman.
What's his name? The band leader?
Oh yeah, he's from Germantown.
Road was on my street, and Booker was, I believe, the first African American to be in the Philadelphia Orchestra.
What music was like popular when you guys were going to the places like the Sedgwick and so the bandbox and those musical areas?
Swing music, you ever hear of that? And also jitterbug dancing, jazz type of thing.
Even before rock and roll, there was doo-wop. I don't know whether they called it doo-wop back then, but that was where many of us got introduced to the black musicians, because there were some great groups back then, like the Orioles, the Shirelles, the Four Tops, and they sang songs like "You Saw Me Crying in the Chapel" and all kinds of great stuff.
You saw me crying in the
My mom had this quote, and she said, "Every generation thinks they invented sex, drugs, and rock and roll." Absolutely, it's so true. I mean, when I hear things like the discotheques and the, I'm not gonna get over this.
Yeah. Well, see, you really have learned from history. That's great.
Well, I can remember when the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan, and that changed the world. You know, no matter who you were.
64 in February.
Something like that.
Looking back, 20 years later, I realized that their idols were, Black American blues, R&B. But the folk music thing too was also introduced the element of social change and protest that the rock and roll people picked up on as well. That music became not just for entertainment.
You really got it if you liked Elvis.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my God! I mean, your parents were like, "Whoa."
Well, I mean, basically, music is one of the things that kids use to separate themselves from their parents, or from their parents' generation. It's part of the dividing up kind of thing, separation.